Good evening. It's good to have everyone here as we have several sessions all day long. And we're pleased to have many people joining us on live stream for this evening. So we welcome them as well. A convening on Zionism in this day, in this year, in these weeks where we have just observed a terrible anniversary, means that it's not enough just to have October 7th come up as it has and as it will in the discussion of Zionism and the victims perhaps spoken of, but we do need to bring their presence into this moment a little more palpably. So we are preceding the Rappaport lecture this evening with these 15 minutes that are in your program for that purpose of a memorial. And many of you have already been introduced to Dr. Yizhar Hess, who is the Senior Vice Chair of the World Zionist Organization. It's a great honor to have him with us, and a special privilege to be able to invite him up now to take charge of this moment of memorialization.
Thank God that our son, Achiad, was not in Israel on October 7th. Achiad is a student at the Hebrew University in Jerusalem. It was the last week of the summer vacation, and he was trekking in Nepal. He didn't hear anything that Shabbat, not even on Motzei Shabbat. He was in a place with no internet. Only on Sunday evening, when he arrived at the place with internet, he learned about what had happened in Israel on Simchat Torah. From that moment on, he did whatever he could in order to come back home. He walked for a full day till he reached the nearest road, then rented a jeep in a ridiculous price, and drove for 10 hours on a bumpy road until he reached an airport, took a plane to Kathmandu, the capital of Nepal. There he bought a ticket to Israel via Mumbai, India, only to discover that you cannot fly via Mumbai without an Indian visa, which he didn't have, so he had to toss this ticket. He bought another one, this time via the Emirates. He landed in Israel on Thursday morning. We met him at the airport. We went home. He took a quick shower, had a quick breakfast with his parents, and rushed to his unit for 6 months. Thank God that Achiad was not in Israel on October 7th. I know my son. He served in a special unit in the army. He would have rushed to his unit that morning, would have put his hands on whatever rifle he could, and would have rushed to the Gaza envelope to save as many civilians, to kill as many terrorists. According to the statistics of that Shabbat, the majority of the reserve soldiers that were not on duty and did what I just described did not survive. So thank God that Achiad was not in Israel on October 7th. We are lucky, but for many, many other Israeli families, this is not the case. It's a little more than a year now. Some of you here, I know, visited Israel after October 7th. I'm sure that you felt that it is a different Israel. The calendar may show differently, but in so many ways, we are still on October 7th. We did not reach October 8th yet. The coffee shops are open, but there is less joy. Theaters are back because the show must go on, but there is a yellow empty chair on the side of the stage or in the front row. Even private simchas. People dance, but the playlist somewhat different and the volume too. The calendar may show it differently, but Israel didn't overcome October 7th, and we are still far from October 8th. The war didn't end. It's the longest war Israel ever had since the Independence War. Tens of thousands of people are evacuated from their homes, fallen civilians, fallen soldiers, and 101 people, men and women, how many of them are still alive, are held in Gaza, buried alive in some tunnel, humiliated, beaten, abused. לא כולם חללים, אבל כולם מחוללים. We should think about them in this very moment. The humidity. The ones who came back talk about the humidity, unbearable humidity in the tunnel. You can breathe, but you cannot breathe, but you still do it. Small quantities of food and water, lechem tsar v'mayim lachatz, and you are weak. After so many months, the hunger is no longer hunger, it's pain. Until we bring them home, Israel will not get to October 8th. The pogrom of October 7th will be remembered for many years to come. I call it pogrom because the people who lived in the kibbutzim and towns experienced something that we believed that was part of history, not reality. We created the state of Israel. We established the Israel Defense Forces in order to have a Jewish sovereign state with an army on guard. So the Jews will not be slaughtered like they were, like we were, for hundreds of years of pogroms. On October 7th is a pogrom because we failed. Israelis fought for their lives, but there was no state of Israel there. Some soldiers did whatever they could, but the IDF was not there. It doesn't matter how this war ends, even if Hamas and Hezbollah are demolished, which I think they should, which I hope they would. This war will not end with a victory. We lost on day one. Adam karov etzel atzmo, we mourn the people that we, Israel, lost. This is our family. But even if we do so, I think we cannot ignore. We should not ignore the heavy price of war on both sides. War is ugly. Even when it is just, it is ugly. Even when we know that no other democratic country would have reacted differently, or even worse. Even then, we cannot ignore when innocent lives are lost. War is the ugliest behavior of mankind, even when it's just. The pogrom that we know most about is that associated with the very word pogrom, more than any other pogrom, is, of course, the Kishinev pogrom in 1903. The reason why it is the most famous pogrom is not the level of atrocities. It was horrible, but it wasn't that different from many other pogroms, unfortunately. And it's also not due to the number of casualties. In the Kishinev pogrom of 1903, 55 Jews were killed. 55 is a lot, even one is a lot, but we had much bigger pogroms in our history. The reason why we remember Kishinev pogrom is due to poetry. It was Chaim Nachman Bialik who wrote these two poems, Al HaShchita, upon the slaughter, and Be'ir HaHariga, in the city of killing. He described what he saw, adding his interpretation. Those poems of Chaim Nachman Bialik were translated to every language where Jews lived. It became a must-read text, a testimony, but also a Yad Vashem, a textual memorial. And from the Kishinev pogrom of 1903 to Israel of 2023, and to poetry. I would like to conclude with a poem that was written by Shlomo Efrati on October 10th, 3 days after this Black Shabbat. Shlomo Efrati is a father of 4. He lives in Harish. It's a new town, not far from Haifa. On October 7th, he was called to reserve, to Miluim, and was placed in the Shura base, not far from Tel Aviv. In this base, it's a base of the military chief rabbinate. In this base, all the casualties from the Nova music festivals and from the kibbutzim and moshavim and cities, all the casualties, soldiers as well as civilians, were brought. Firstly, They had to be identified to find out who they are in order to inform their families, and then they had to prepare them for burial. The place, the Shura base, was designated to deal with no more than 50 bodies at once. Yet the bodies that morning kept coming, not even in ambulances, but in trucks, a truck after a truck after a truck, and they had to deal with more than 700 bodies in just a couple of days. Shlomo Efrati was part of a team, a random people who were called to Miluim, to reserve duty. One of the first things they had to do together as a team is to take fingerprints from each body. The poem was published. We'll see it in a second. This poem was published in the literature edition of Haaretz on this Simchat Torah just a few days ago. I will read in Hebrew and then the translation to English. עוד לילה עבר. הגיעו אלינו קדושי בארי. פה נטמנה קהילת קודש, זקנים, נשים וטף, חילונים שנטבחו לשם ייחוד קדושה בריחו. כבר חשבת שהתרגלת לרוטינה עד שאתה שומע משפט. תכניס את הגופה הזאת לחדר של משפחת, כאילו לקחו חדר במלון. בחדר אני עוטה עליי את הסרבל הלבן שקיבלתי, כמו קיטל, ולוקח טביעות אצבע לפי תול מסודר. יש לקרוא בקול. אגודל ימין, וחוזרים אחריי כולם, אגודל ימין, אני, אצבע ימין, כולם, אצבע ימין, ואני בלב, תקיעה, כולם, אמה ימין, ואני בלב, שברים, כולם, קמיצה ימין, ואני בלב, תרועה, כולם, זרת ימין, ואני בלב, תקיעה גדולה. תודה חבר'ה, יצאו לנו תקיעות טובות. יוצאים החוצה להסדיר נשימה, מורידים מסכות וסרבלים, פתאום אתה קולט. ישראל מהקירור הוא חסיד. גליה, הרופאת שיניים, היא אתאיסטית, היחידה בירושלים לדעתה, אבי מהמשטרה, אתיופי. כולם יושבים ביחד, לכולם אותו מבט בעיניים, והלב מלא, מלא, מלא. October 10th, next slide please, it will be easier to read. October 10th, 2023. Another night has passed. The holy ones of Be'eri have arrived. Here, a holy community is buried. Elderly, women and children, secular Jews who were slaughtered for the sake of the unification of the Holy One, blessed be He. You thought you had gotten used to the routine until you hear the sentence. Put this body into the family room of, as if they had taken a room in a hotel. In the room, I put the right robe I received, like a kittel, and take fingerprint according to a precise order. I have to say it loud, right thumb, and everyone repeats after me. Right thumb, me. Right finger, everyone. Right finger, in my heart, tekiah. Everyone, right middle finger, in my heart, shvarim. Everyone, right ring finger, in my heart, truah. Everyone, right little finger, in my heart, tki'ah gdolah. Thank you guys, you've got good finger, tekiah's prints. We go outside to catch our breath, take the masks and robes. Suddenly you realize, Israel, from the refrigerated room, is a chassid. Galia, the dentist, is an atheist, the only one in Jerusalem, in her opinion. Avi, from the police, is Ethiopian. They all sit together, all with the same look in their eyes, and the heart is full, full, full. I'd like to invite Rabbi Jacob Blumenthal for a nigun.
Let's sing together if you pick up the nigun. Yai, dai, 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 dai. Yai dai dai, yai dai dai. Yai dai dai, yai dai dai. Yai dai 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 dai. Yai dai 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 dai, yai 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 dai